This is Aisle 42. I followed the trail of my favorite pesto and plant-based cheese sauce, and it led me all the way to Quebec and Le Grand and co-founder Tatiana Bossy. In this episode of Aisle 42, Tatiana shares her journey through the business world of the once trendy, now mainstream plant-based movement. We talk about her approach to wholesome ingredients and their efforts to source products from suppliers who give a damn about people and the planet. Tatiana also envisions a future where dairy-free and high-quality products truly make consumers' lives easier, which is something we can all appreciate. We also talk about their bold expansion into Western Canadian grocery stores, and we give a shout out to vegan celebrities Pamela Anderson and Bryan Adams. Let's get into it. Here's Tatiana from Le Grand. Tatiana, I'm so thrilled that we're finally able to connect. This is the first conversation you and I have had away from the chaos of a trade show floor, which is so great. Now, on Aisle 42, we like to jump right in. So I'm going to officially welcome you to the podcast with a question, and it's about the future. If you were to imagine the perfect grocery store of the future, what would it look like?
Oh dear, that feels like a very loaded question. Well, first of all, Corbin, thank you so much for having me because my favorite topic is food and health. So very excited to jump right in. My favorite grocery store is loaded with fruit and vegetables. I just really hope that somehow the government will stop subsidizing all the junk and just make it much more centered on what really nourishes and feeds the body and the soul. So fruit and vegetables, and definitely just with a focus obviously on a consciousness around, can we just create more awareness around GMOs and the importance of organic when we can.
I agree. I think it's well said. And the last time I was at a grocery store a few days ago, I decided to slow my roll a little bit and, entered through the appropriate door, which put me right into the produce section. And I decided to, instead of blasting through to grab my favorites or my usuals, I decided to look a little bit deeper into the things that I don't normally buy. Some of those vegetables that look a little weird or that come from places unfamiliar to me. And I started looking them up. Like, what is this thing? What is this going to taste like? And I shouldn't confess this. I even started smelling a few things. I'm sure people aren't excited about, who's that guy smelling all that stuff.
My husband, all the time during COVID, you weren't even supposed to touch
I
them.
know.
And he would just give others the dirty look right back.
I know. Well, I remember my dad was joking about rolling cantaloupes down the aisle to see if it curves a little bit, to see if it's a good one. So maybe I didn't go quite that far, but I agree. I think a grocery store full of fruits and vegetables, ones that are, well grown, that are organic, ideally, and that can fill our fridges and fill our tummies with good nutrition. That's as raw formed as possible, is a beautiful future. So I appreciate you sharing that. I wanted to be the head chef of Chuck E. Cheese when I was 10 years old, so my aspirations changed a lot over the years, but I always have loved being in the kitchen. My happy place that's my playground. I love being in the kitchen. I know you and your partner in crime, Bernard, have a real passion for food and for inspired cooking. What is it about the creative process that brings your food brand to life?
Well, my husband and partner, he is the one actually who's created all of our products. And so he's definitely a creative. He's an original, as I like to call him on a good day. He thinks outside the box. And so most of food products are developed by food scientists. And he brings a whole different perspective. So he's a rock and jazz drummer who grew up eating, if not vegetarian, even macrobiotic back in the 70s. So a whole other awareness around that it starts with food. Food is the basis for, true health. And so we started our business very much focused on how do we make food with good enough fresh food, but with a good enough shelf life that we can get it out to stores without loading it with preservatives. And so we built our plant, no pun intended, really based on enlarging it to a scale that is adapted to still having quality foods. When you go into plants that are so massive, the equipment that is so massive, of course, they have to add gums and fillers, and I just call it, the gunk, to be able to get the product, I guess, ultimately into the container and in the store. And so, our machines are mid-size. We have a lot of 1,000 kilo kettles. So it's still, very, very sizable, but it's kind of a perfect size to be able to make products that will, you know, feed, but on a large enough scale that it's makes sense from a business perspective, but that still tastes like you made it yourself.
It sounds beautiful. And, making a lot of food for a lot of people, as you do, isn't always easily done. But as innovation comes into play, it can sure make that process a lot smoother, a lot safer in a lot of ways. And you guys are really putting out some remarkable things. So why don't we take a moment here? Why don't you share with Aisle 42 listeners the products that you make? What are you guys making? The one thing that you're making most recently that's new is your cheese sauce, and I'll let you I'll let you divulge more of the details on that. But it is the best cheese sauce, plant-based cheese sauce I have ever had, and I eagerly await its dramatic arrival here out west. Maybe it is in certain places and spaces. I'm still struggling to find it. If you don't mind me saying it out loud, but I have tasted it, and it is something I can't wait to serve my family. But why don't you just walk us through the products that you guys are making?
Well, there's a lot of shelf stable products out there, and there are a lot of frozen products. The hardest to do is fresh because shelf stable, you've got a ton of shelf life. Frozen, you've got a ton of shelf life. But fresh, you're going up against the aging of the product. And so, how do you get it to consumers fast enough so that it's going to taste just as good as when it was made? So we really developed, I guess, in the end, it became a passion, but how do you, naturally get shelf life? And so this is a preoccupation for a manufacturer in our space. And so we created a very long time ago already a number of pesto sauces. So it's made with they are made with fresh basil. We still even squeeze the lemon juice fresh every week. The basil comes in fresh from Mexico every week. The Romano cheese, we have one product that's a real traditional dairy. We consider it our legacy product because it's been on the market since I guess the 90s. Yeah, and it sells really well. So it's like, well, what the heck? But even then, Bernard, my partner, used Romano cheese so that it's sheep's milk, which is more digestible. So we've always had this consciousness around dairy. So, number one, we've always focused on fresh and creating fresh products with only real food, real ingredients. So you'll never see, all the fake stuff in our products. So you could make your own pesto, or you could just buy ours because it's made fresh every single week of the year, except between Christmas and New Year's, so everyone can have some time off. And then we just have been exploring for the last 4 or 5 years a lot of different products in the dairy free area. So, we launched our vegan butters and we called them vegan. And a lot of people have this association that, vegan isn't going to taste so good. I personally don't eat any meat. I don't usually eat dairy. Sometimes, if it's really good milk chocolate, I can't resist. But I have to say that I've just become more and more disgruntled with the movement in these last years, just feeling it's been co-opted by large corporations and the quality isn't necessarily there. So we are kind of moving away from calling them vegan products because what's been fascinating for us to learn is that somewhere close, I don't think exactly, but close to 50% of the adult population is dairy free or just lactose intolerant or not digesting dairy, having discomfort. So more and more people wouldn't consider themselves at all vegan, but then they're just opting for either dairy free or less dairy in their lives. And I believe that's how we connected because you were curious, about our mac and cheese sauce. And our mac and cheese sauce is incredible. And this is where we wanted to think outside the box and not use, just powders and such. So it's actually a proprietary fermentation process that we've created, and it's cashew based, but with carrots and potatoes. So it's super fun. But you just pour it on to anything and everything. I have a fondness for potatoes and broccoli, and as I said, dream grocery store is with all the veggies. So, but sometimes you just want a little treat, right? Besides just, a bit of salt and pepper, or butter, or vegan butter. But anyway, just the cheese sauce is so much fun. So we've been exploring a lot of that, and believe that there's a whole consumer base that is wanting those better for you comfort foods, but who wants to sacrifice taste and pleasure, right? So
Yeah, our family, you and I have talked about it before. My family's dairy free ish. So when we cheat, when we consume something that has dairy in it, it's considered. Like it's not just flippant. It's like, how are we going to feel about this? How well is this ingredient? Is it made? It's not just a casual thing. We do pay attention to those things. So there's very little dairy in our house. And when I think about the movement that you're a part of, and I think it is one where maybe it isn't outright vegan, but it's certainly more considered around what people are consuming. I think and you guys use this term powered by plants. I think that diets that are powered by plants really can bring some remarkable value to on the nutritional level, on the energy level, on even on the calorie level. A lot of good things can be done when we lean into our plants, our fruits, and our vegetables.
if you don't mind my asking, with your family specifically, did it come more from the parents, or more the kids just as young children just having an intolerance to dairy?
Yeah, it came from my daughter when she was a newborn, and my wife was feeding her. The first year was just a really tricky year for a new mom and a feeding mom. And so when my wife removed dairy from her diet, both her and baby thrived almost within a week. It was dramatic. And so those good signs sort of led us to believe, hey, I wonder we should be doing this differently. I was a little bit of a late comer. I was a little bit like, oh no, you guys do the vegan thing. I'm going to keep doing my cheesy, milk and dairy and ice cream thing. But eventually, they won me over for a bunch of reasons. Part of that was, ingredients getting better and products getting better tasting was a big part of it. But also, too, I started to become more aware of how I felt when I was or wasn't consuming dairy. So a bit of a journey for us. Nothing, the doctor didn't say anything. There was no dramatic test or result. It was just like we feel better when. And so that's really driven our consumption of dairy. So you talked about cheese. There are certain kinds of, finer cheeses that, well, we will definitely cheat on those. But the, more processed cheeses or sort of things that, are more commercial in production, we wouldn't touch them. We just know, well, those are going to make us feel like garbage. So we wouldn't even, it doesn't even feel like an indulgence because we know it's going to just make us feel like crap.
And I feel like there's a real, I certainly don't want to call it a trend, but my sense of where consumers are exploring right now is, well, give me real food, and I will take care of myself better. So the desire to be educated maybe a little bit more, I get the sense that there is that opening. And so a cheese that may be sheep's milk or goat's milk, for some people that is a little easier to digest. And so yeah, I think it's just a curiosity that I'm really appreciating right now from when I have a chance to talk to our consumers.
And let's talk about organic for a moment. You guys are very clear on your use of organic ingredients. What's that process like when you guys are making decisions around how to make these product formulations or which suppliers to work with? And organic certification is not easily done. It is a labor of love for a lot of brands that make it a priority. So, what's it like for your team to really lean into the organic side of things?
Well, I would combine organic and the non-GMO because they're both two separate certifications and they are complex. I was making a face a moment ago because it's tough, and that's why I think just there's not more out there. It's kind of sad, the whole reality of the inflation that we're living, because it just made even more and more ingredients less accessible, or finished products. But we struggle for sure because it's crazy. Like here in Canada, there's nobody doing prepared organic carrots and potatoes. So we literally bring them in. One of the more common ingredients, carrots and potatoes, we have to bring them in from the States. And before that, we brought them in from Europe to be able to have the organic. Because we're a manufacturer, we're not at home, so it's not a matter of just buying a couple of carrots and peeling them, and the potatoes. So we buy them what's called IQF. So they are already prepared and frozen and chopped. So for us, we need to be able to find a supplier, and there aren't any doing the organic in Canada. So this is where then one asks oneself, do I continue in this direction, or do I just buy the conventional? But we've, Bernard and I, believe in this and believe that it's really important if we can at least offer some ingredients. Not all of our products will be fully organic. The mac and cheese is not certified organic, but it has organic cashews, organic carrots, organic potatoes. So some ingredients are just really, really harder to come by. So you just have to make choices.
And I'm shocked to hear that many of those ingredients you're not able to have from a Canadian processor or grower. That is interesting and a little bit sad.
I guess it comes down to the volume along those lines.
That is true.
So, no, it really does require a commitment, because when you talk to a lot of manufacturers, a lot of brands, companies, everyone got the memo about, it's important to have a purpose, a mission. It can't just be about making money. But it's still tough with all the pressure on manufacturers, that sometimes we question, okay, well, can we do it? So we'll keep this commitment alive because it is costly. So we will get a few different prices for the conventional, and then I think that's where Bernard is really a wizard at trying to play with the product and see where he can make it work by still having some of the key organic ingredients.
So let's talk about sustainability for a moment. What are some of the initiatives that you guys have at Legrand around sustainability, and what would you love to see happen in the future?
So I think for the longest time, it felt that the plant based movement was more of a fringe movement, but it's absolutely become a global phenomenon. And everyone is, well, not everyone, but almost everyone is looking to how they can make improvements to their health, their well-being, and how they find more energy and feel good. So this is where we are really looking forward to bringing in more of our products that are dairy free, and expanding on quality products to be able to just make our consumers, make people's lives easier. So when you ask the question of sustainability, I get it. I mean, we're all kind of concerned for the environment and what have you, but we use real plant-based ingredients. So that is our most important focus. And of course, if we can buy more from suppliers in Canada, if we can work with a lot more conscientious suppliers and getting to know them. Even like our sun-dried tomatoes, we bring them in from Turkey because they just can't come from here. There's not enough sunshine. And we work with the farm in Turkey and we bring them in once a year. So, really just trying to be as close as we can to our ingredients.
And here's a fun one for you. If there was to be a celebrity out there in the world that would spontaneously endorse one of your products, which celebrity would that be?
So I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Pamela Anderson had through a friend or someone, I don't know quite, but we asked and we sent her some products. And because, oh, that's right. No, it's coming back to me. Bryan Adams and her are friends because they're both very committed vegans. And so he said, well, send her some samples too. And so we did. And well, but she didn't ever talk about them, which was kind of too bad. I'd love for her to talk about maybe if ever she uses any of our amazing mac and cheese sauce, because it's probably been a very, very long time she hasn't ever had a yummy mac and cheese dinner.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Pamela Anderson, she's out here on the West Coast. Brian Adams. Those are some good names to drop, by the way. I like that. That's a solid play.
Yeah. Well, Bryan Adams too did once recommend our pesto sauce, and it was fantastic because a lot of people did on his Instagram recognize it and such. But hey, Corbin, I have a goal for you now because you were saying, being able to find our new mac and cheese sauce. So I am negotiating right now with Save On and out west. So I'm hoping that they're going to bring it in for the fall. So please, if you go shopping there, ask for it. But Whole Foods has just just very recently is promoting our mac and cheese sauce. They just got it on the shelf. They're going to be having promotions throughout the summer, and so will a number of the wonderful independent grocers across the West.
That's the best news I've heard in a long time. So that's great. I haven't been to a Whole Foods recently. I walked by one en route to my office, but it's not too close to home. But Save-On is everywhere. I think there's a Save-On within 10 kilometers of every house in this province, if not the entire Western Canada. But it's great to hear that your products are coming out this way. I've seen your pestos before out here. Actually, I've had them a few times now over the last 2 years. So I usually make my own, but I love having a pouch of yours in the fridge. And it's, just so grateful for all that you make and the beautiful food that you and your husband and team make. And your passion for plants is a wonderful thing. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Corbin. Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Aisle 42. I hope you enjoyed hearing everything that Tatiana and her team are up to. To learn more about their products and where to find them, go to lovelegrand.com. Okay, that's it for me. I'm Corbin Hebert from Ethical Food Group, and I'll see you in the future.